talking tonight about Mylio. It just came out with a major update last week or so. And so she'll give
about a week and a half ago.
A week and a half ago.
Almost 2 weeks now.
So she'll give us all the information about it. So thoroughly.
All right, cool.
Take it away, Angela. Tell us
right.
about yourself and go from there.
Yeah, we'll do that here. Let me get back to my presentation. 1 second. There we go. Play on that. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Mylio Photos, which is a new major upgrade of an application that used to be called just Mylio. So we did a little bit of rebranding, added in a bunch of new features, and calling it Mylio Photos because we want you to know that that's really what it's all about. My name is Angela Andrieux, and I'm a product evangelist for Mylio. I've been with the company now for about 6 months, and it's been one of the best decisions I've made as a photographer, fine art photographer, photo educator. I'm having a blast working with this product. It's enabled me to do things with my photos that I've wanted to do for a long time. And technology just wasn't quite there yet. It was partially there. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. But to give you a little bit of background, I'm also a photographer. I love to shoot, I travel. I've done anything from the fine art photography to commercial photography, real estate, things like that. So if you have questions about photography in general, please don't hesitate to ask. I can help with that as well. And I have been teaching Lightroom and photo editing, working with a variety of different plugins for many, many years. So I love the part of being on the computer almost as much as I love being behind the camera. I know not everybody's like that, but I'm a little bit geeky that way. So just give you a little bit of background about me. So let's talk about the software, which I have to tell you is pretty cool. So at a very high level, what Mylio is a system for managing your photos. What it does is it pulls in the images from all of your different devices, all of your folders, all of your hard drives, and lets you view them in one central location. It becomes the hub for managing and protecting your lifetime of images. It doesn't matter where they're cataloged, what their source is. We can typically read them, bring them in, and help you get them organized if that's something you're after. So what we do is the software gets installed on, let's say, first of all, your main computer. You can install it on as many devices as you want. So computers, you can install it on your tablets, smartphones. It works on Android, iOS, Mac, and Windows. And one subscription gives you access to all of that. So it lets you have this one central hub for all of your images that you can browse from any device that you're on. We are not a cloud service. We work with a few cloud services, and it's optional, but we help you create your own network with your own devices, your own storage to be able to protect and get to your photos when you want and need them. Our software also has some pretty tremendous search features and filter features that help you find what you're looking for. You want to be able to get to your images when you want to, so being able to find them is pretty critical. It has a built-in editor, raw editor, but it also works seamlessly with other workflows. So like I said, I've taught Lightroom for many, many years. I'm a huge Adobe fan. I do most of my editing in other applications. And Mylio makes it really easy to do that, whether I'm on my computer or on my tablet or even my phone. I don't do a lot of editing on my phone, but it's there if I want to. You don't have to have an internet connection. You can use this with your home network. You can do a peer-to-peer connection with your various devices. And like I said, cloud is optional. So if you are one of those people who wants to keep full control of all of your data, Mylio Photos is an excellent way to do that. You don't have to touch the cloud if you don't want to. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the benefits with Mylio. And the first one here is my absolute favorite. And this is for me what was the game changer. And also was one of the main reasons that I joined this team, is to be able to have all my photos on all my devices all the time. Now there's other software apps that are out there that have tried to do this, and some even do it okay. The big thing for me came down to the cost. So I have Apple products. I've got MacBook Pro, I've got iPad, iPhone. And so with that, I have access to Apple Photos. And that does a reasonably good job of syncing everything up. But if you are a photo enthusiast or a pro photographer, you probably don't want to put your photos, or at least all of your pro photos, into Apple Photos because it's a closed ecosystem and you can't get at the file system easily. It's not the best to work with, especially for really large libraries. Now, it's great for getting those images back and forth between your phone, your tablet, and your computer. But if you have an Android phone, if you have a Windows computer, if you have a mixed devices in your house, that really doesn't work very well. So there's some really big downsides to using Apple Photos. The big upside is it's free if you have Apple devices, at least up to a certain amount of storage. The other option that I considered was using Adobe's cloud. And it's a fantastic system. They've done a really good job. I prefer Lightroom Classic over the mobile version, but there are ways to make that work, and you can have your entire library available on all of your devices. The problem with their system is it was cost prohibitive. And for me, with many terabytes of images, the cost per month was going to be $40, $50, $60, and it was just going to grow just for cloud storage space. And as much as I like the idea of having all my images with me all the time, I didn't like it that much. So then along comes Mylio Photos and tells me I can do this without having to pay for additional cloud storage, and I can network all of my devices together. I can sync up, like, let's say, my tablet and my laptop together when I'm on the road, and I can do all of this for $99 a year. And so I was definitely intrigued. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I can say from my own experience in getting finally my entire library catalog like this, it works brilliantly. So this for me was the huge selling point, being able to have everything with me all the time. So let's talk about what that looks like a little bit. So everybody has all of their different devices. Not every device has a whole lot of storage. So what Mylio Photos does is when it puts a library on your phone, your tablet, or even a small hard drive laptop, it optimizes your images to less than 5% of their original size. And if you're just using thumbnails, which is the smallest form, it can be down to 1% of their original size. So you can browse, you can cull, you can do your star ratings, color labels, move things around on folders from your phone with just those thumbnail images. The smart previews are about 5% of the original size, and those give you access to your raw data. And you can do editing within Mylio Photos with those. You can export JPEGs, you can print up to a 5x7. You can do quite a lot with those smart previews and have your original files backed up and safe at home on an external hard drive, even when you're out and about using your laptop or a device that doesn't have room for all of those images. So it lets you get to what you need no matter where you are. And then I mentioned earlier that you can sync between devices. You can create a private peer-to-peer connection. So if you're someplace with no Wi-Fi, but you have two computers, or you have your phone and your computer, you can go ahead and connect those with a peer-to-peer connection and get your stuff synced up while you're on the road. And I find this to be really beneficial to people who like to travel. And maybe you like to travel to remote places that have poor Wi-Fi, or if you're an RVer, RV parks are notoriously terrible with their Wi-Fi. So I'm not sure if anybody here can relate to that. It just opens up a lot of ways for you to be able to get your stuff onto all your devices and continue working no matter where you are. So going back to keeping things within your control, all of your images are on your devices. You control those hard drives, you control your computer, all of the rest, and has the added security of not being out in the cloud, not accessible to anybody else. So a few extra things, like I mentioned earlier, you can add multiple devices. Once you have a Mylio Photos plan, there's no limitation on your number of devices. There's no limitation on the number of photos. We have people who have libraries well in excess of, I think, 2.5 million photos using Mylio to manage their libraries. My personal library is just shy of 100,000. So that gives you an idea. And I've been shooting digital for about 15 years. It lets you integrate into your existing workflow, takes advantage of your home network, and you don't have to deal with storage caps of the cloud. Like I said, cloud is optional. You can use it if you want, but you don't have to. So this is a quick little overview of what it would look like for different types of devices. If you're talking about those thumbnails that I mentioned, you can get a terabyte's worth of photos onto your phone for about a gig. And this lets you get very, very large libraries onto smartphones that don't have very much storage. I know a lot of us probably try to buy the biggest devices we can, but sometimes we end up buying something with less storage than is ideal. And something like this lets you take advantage of that, still have your photos, even though you have a really small drive. If you have a tablet or a laptop with a smaller drive, but not as small as a smartphone, you can get, with the smart previews, 1 terabyte of photos equals about 45 gigs. And then for your home desktop, and for me, my desktop is actually my laptop connected to a big external hard drive. I keep everything at home on my vaults, and a vault is just an external drive that we designate to hold your entire collection of images. Vaults are optional, but it's a great way to protect your image library against computer loss, like somebody comes in and steals your laptop, steals your hard drives, or a disk failure. So your hard drive crashes, things like that. Having a vault or multiple vaults provides additional protection for your photos. All right, so far, do we have any questions? I feel like I'm gonna go at you guys with like a fire hose worth of information.
Yeah, could you talk about the vault one more time?
Absolutely. So the definition of a vault is any device that you designate to hold an entire copy of all of your original files and your Mylio catalog. So all of your work that you've done for organization, things like that. For most people, this is going to be an external hard drive, but if you have a computer, let's say a desktop computer with a really large drive, maybe you can put it on your home computer. We typically don't recommend using tablets and phones as vaults because they don't have enough storage space. But again, there are some tablets out there that have 2+ terabyte space. And if your image collection is a little bit on the smaller side, you might be able to get away with that. So it's any device or drive that has enough space to hold your entire library.
Okay.
And you can, go ahead.
And the vault, for example, if I have like a hard drive plugged into just my router, so it's just access through the network, that could be designated as a vault.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then
Go ahead.
well, I'll let you go if you might address this later, so I'll wait. But I wrote it down.
All right, no worries. Feel free to pop in with any questions. All right, so we did talk a little bit about vaults, and this is where never lose a photo or video again comes in. Not only do we have vaults to help protect your entire image library and to make duplicates of your image library, but it also lets you bring in images and videos from different sources. So what happens to a lot of people is they have a phone, they take pictures, videos of important life memories, and they think that phone is being backed up to somewhere, this ethereal cloud, and maybe some of the pictures are, maybe some of them are backed up at lower quality, but maybe not everything. And a lot of people think they're backed up and they actually aren't. And then they go out on a boating trip on the bay and that phone goes overboard. That's where Mylio comes in, is if you have Mylio Photos on that phone and you've been syncing it up with your vault at home, then all of those images that you took on that phone are preserved on your drives at home. It's not just on that one device. So it kind of goes back to that 3-2-1 backup. You want to have 3 copies of your data in 2 locations with 1 working copy. So what that looks like for me is I have my working copy. I use Time Machine, which is an app that's built into the Mac ecosystem for regular backups. And I use Backblaze for cloud backups, so that backs up my entire system to the cloud. I also have repetitive backups with additional vaults using Mylio. So just my photos with the vaults are backed up additionally. So That way I know all of the photos from all of my different devices, regardless of what camera I took them with, are all coming into that one central location and are protected. So we want to make sure that you guys are able to preserve your lifetime of memories. Losing a hard drive, losing a phone that has, you know, your kids' baby pictures on it, things like that. It's as bad as your house burning down. It breaks your heart and you lose those memories forever. So we want to help you make sure those things are preserved. A couple of things to note about vaults and Mylio Photos is a vault will help you protect against like a hard drive crash or your computer being stolen. It does not protect against accidental human error. If you delete things in Mylio, it'll pop up and say, hey, are you sure you want to delete this? But once you do, it goes to your system trash. You empty that trash, it's gone. And it's gone from all of your devices. So I actually had this question from somebody yesterday. What if you hand your tablet to your kid to let them play games and your kid goes in there and starts deleting things? Well, we have a really cool thing called guest mode. So you can always have your Mylio Photos in guest mode unless you're using it and you enter a PIN. So nobody else can go in there and delete things without you knowing. Just one of those things that I hadn't thought about because I don't have kids, but it's a really valid concern. So there are ways to protect your images and make sure they're not accidentally deleted. But if they are, that's where those system backups like Time Machine and Backblaze come in really handy. All right. So in addition to being able to preserve your photos, we want to make sure you can find them and experience them. So one of the coolest things I found with Mylio Photos is in the process of bringing my images in, adding face tags, sorting them, trying to get them a little bit better organized, I found so many photos that I had forgotten about. Moments in time that are frozen in these precious images that, you know, they just bring a big smile to your face. And, you know, sometimes they're not the like, you know, highest quality images. Maybe it's something I pulled down from Facebook, but it's stuff it's your memories, it's your life. So being able to find and rediscover those things in Mylio is really, really important. And I'll show you a little bit later on how we do this. I mentioned we have very powerful search and filtering. Mylio as an organization tool lets you add all of your expected metadata. You can do titles and descriptions and captions and keywords. And we even have a couple of proprietary things like events that can link up to your calendar in your computer. So I have it hooked up to I can have it hooked up to my calendar here on my Mac. If you're on Windows, it hooks up to Outlook, things like that. So you can bring in the events and tie things in your photo library to different events in your life. So that's pretty fun. So there's a lot of different ways that you can discover and find things as you need them. When you search for images in Mylio, you're searching across all of your devices. It has amazing facial recognition, so you can add face tags and tag all of the important people in your life. And it's very, very quick and easy, much easier and faster than other applications I've used. I did a little bit of face tagging back in the day in Lightroom, and it was good, but it took me forever to go through a batch of images. Now, the cool thing is when I opened up Mylio, because they read standard XMP metadata, all of those face tags that I did in Lightroom were in Mylio, but I was able to much easier add more and get everything better organized. Another cool feature with the search is that it searches for text in photos. So if I type in, let's say I did this the other day, I typed in the word dog. I had just added the word keyword or the keyword to a couple of photos for dog. And I was like, let's see what this pulls up. And not only did it pull up the photos that I'd keyworded, not only did it pull up stuff that I'd keyworded in the past, or anything that had the word dog in the file name or in the folder name and different metadata fields, but it also has optical text recognition in that it searched for the word dog in my pictures. And it pulled up a picture of my cat up on the bookshelf. And I was like, why did it pull this picture? And it was because there was the word dog in one of the titles of the books. So it reads the text that are in photographs. And I find that to be mind-blowing. it really helps you find images in a really new and exciting way. So here's just a quick look at what devices look like on a computer. And it's just flicking through some of the different views here that you can see happening on the screen. And I'll show you this on a live demo here in a few minutes. Just gives you an idea of what's happening here. So you can search across all these parameters. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Angela. Are we supposed to be seeing a screen right now?
Are you not seeing? It says search by camera. And it should be a little video.
Yeah, I don't see.
Interesting.
Dave, do you
Were you
see
seeing
it?
my screen before?
No, I just been
Yes.
watching you the whole time.
Oh,
Yeah, you should be able to see it.
you
You
can
see it,
somebody see
Dave?
it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's just me then. All right, hold on.
All right.
All right, I got it. I got it. I
Okay.
use Zoom like only when Dave has a guest.
Okay.
All right, I got it. I'm sorry. Keep
All right,
going.
cool. No problem. All right. So another parameter you can search by is by camera. We have some really cool library stats where it lets you go in and see all the cameras you've used, places that you've been, file types in your library. So if you're looking for everything that's a JPEG or everything that's a TIFF, you can find those. So there's just a lot of different ways to find what you're looking for inside of Mylio. I mentioned our facial recognition. You can search by person. See, the search that's happening on the screen right now is JC is one of my colleagues, and these are photos of him and his daughter. And you just he typed in Madeline and JC, and all the pictures of him and his daughter pop up. And that's a really fun one to do. I did that actually the other day for Father's Day, and I did a search for just pictures of me and my dad. And it's a great way to make a slideshow for an event, and just share those moments with those family members. I also talked a little bit about the OCR text recognition. So in this search, they typed in find your park, and it brings up the sign that says find your park. It's pretty cool how that works. And it really brings up some unexpected results, but it's extremely powerful. Another great way to use this is if you want to scan in memorabilia, like let's say a concert ticket, and you want to, I'm trying to get rid of paper in my house. I'm scanning in some of this memorabilia. I can type in the name of the concert that I went to, and it'll pull it up based on the text of that ticket. And then from there, I can find out which day it happened, and then go to that day and see all of my images from that day. So just a lot of great ways to find things in Mylio Photos.
So just quick question. While I was fumbling with Zoom, when you were doing the people search, is that a facial recognition type search?
It is.
Okay.
Well, so what happens is, well, the search itself is not facial recognition. It's going off of the face tags that you will have added previously, but there is facial recognition in the software. So as you go through and you tag a handful of times a certain person, you add that name, it'll recognize more of them and say, hey, I think this is that person. And you can go in and fill those in pretty quickly and easily.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's very cool. There's advanced filtering. So you can filter down your results in any of the views by date, by folder, by rating, labels, flags, a lot of those different parameters we've talked about. So there's just multiple ways to get to what you want. And a lot of this happens because of the way you organize. So you want to add metadata. It reads the metadata that's already there. If you already have an existing folder structure that you are happy with, you can maintain it. You can point Mylio to that and keep it. If you are one of those people who has pictures everywhere and you don't have a system that you're already using, you can use Mylio to consolidate all of your images and get them all into one place. So it works for both ways. And I'm kind of a hybrid case here. I had my Lightroom library that was fairly organized, done by year, date, everything. And then there's just those random folders of, these family scans or pictures my mom sent me of the remodel, or, just different things that you have kind of scattered on your computer. So I was able to consolidate those all into one place and maintain my structure that Lightroom also watches. So it's very flexible in what you want to accomplish. but it just gives you that central place to be able to access your photos. We talked a bit about exploring. A couple of things that we haven't really talked about yet is what we call the life calendar, which lets you see all of your biggest and best events on a calendar. It has its own internal algorithm that looks and sees, things that have the top, star ratings or that you've added keywords to. And it'll automatically pick an image that it thinks is probably the best from that batch and puts it on a calendar. Now you can change that, and you can also change how those things are ranked, but it does a really great job of putting things out there so you can see basically your life on a calendar. I think that's probably one of my favorite ways to browse and find photos that I've forgotten about. You can also see all your photos on a map, and this is pretty typical with a lot of software these days since most of our cameras have geotagging built in. So you can see all those locations where you've taken photos on a map, and you can also add geotags to photos that don't have them. So while my big camera does have GPS available, I typically have it turned off because it just sucks the battery dry. But I can take a picture on my cell phone, grab those coordinates, and apply that to all of those images that I took with my big camera, or simply just drag them onto a map in the approximate location where I took them. And then I can zoom out and see whether it's in my state, in the US, or worldwide, where I've been and where I still need to go. All right, so let's see here. So this is just a glimpse of some of the different views inside of Mylio Photos. Right now we're looking at the all photos view. And this is, as you would expect, every single photo in your collection. You can see the small badges there on some of the images. You can see the ones that have the pin for being geotagged, the ones that have color labels. If there's a star rating, you'll see those on there. And it's just a cool way to be able to browse through your images. Now, if you have a massive library, this can be a bit daunting. Typically, if I'm looking for something in the all photos view, I take that zoom level way down, and so they're teeny, teeny, tiny, and then I can go through more of them at once. And then we can take a look here at the calendar. This is what I was talking about with seeing your life on a calendar. And it's just a really brilliant way to interact with your photos. You can see these different bars on there. Those are the events that I was talking about. You can link up a calendar on your system, or you can add them manually. So if you don't want to have everything on your calendar applied on your photos, you can pick a folder or an album and say everything in this particular collection is actually an event, and that will show in one of those bars on the calendar. So it's a fun way to see when you went on vacation, when you had somebody in your family had a graduation, a birthday, different life events that matter to you. And here's our map view. You can see every place that we've tagged for this batch of images. This is our sample library, which is available to anybody to browse. And it just lets you look at your images and find them a different way. So if you knew that you went to the Galapagos, you can zoom in on that area in the map and find all the pictures from that. Whether it was, you might have taken 2 or 3 trips there, but you can see all of those pictures all at once because you went to that area on the map. And this is our people view. And so it's a quick overview of how things are tagged. This is my colleague JC and his daughter Madeline there in the background, and you can tag and untag people really quickly and easily. And like I said earlier, it lets you search in such a way that you can put in JC and Madeline and find all of the pictures that they're in together, which is just really fun and a great way to showcase those memories. Not to mention, you can make slideshows, and you can do slideshows here in Mylio as well. So I know that's, for some people, you don't want to have to necessarily export and go to something else to make a slideshow. You can do that here. We have albums, which are like collections in Lightroom if you're a Lightroom user. It is a virtual collection. It doesn't actually move anything in your hard drive, and you can use one photo in as many different collections and albums as you like. So it's a great way to organize. You can have nested albums, so you can have an album top level for vacations, and then you can have one for all of your vacations to Hawaii, and then you can have a sub album under there for all 5 times that you've been to Hawaii into each island. So all sorts of different ways to organize. And the thing I want to stress is there's a lot here, you don't have to use all of it. Pick and choose the aspects of organization that work for you and the things that really resonate. So for me, I'm very date oriented. That's why my file system for my professional photos is date based. Some people are category based. So maybe the albums are going to be a better place for them to put all of those things into different categories. And you know, organize the way that makes sense and feels right for you and makes it easiest for you. There's a ton of flexibility here, and I don't want people to get overwhelmed and think they have to use all of it. I'm just trying to give you kind of a, well, like I said, I'm hitting you with a fire hose of information, but an overview of what Mylio Photos can do. All right, so this is a quick look here at folders view, and the folders view mimics what's on your hard drive. You can see what device images came from and the folders that were already there. So it's, you know, very much like what you see in other applications when you're just browsing by folder. All right, editing. This is the really fun part. And if you guys are anything like me, you love to edit your photos. And I love to use a bunch of different apps. I don't really have one that I go to. Historically, Lightroom was kind of my home base, and I would jump out to different plugins and Photoshop to edit. I still work that way. So the cool thing about Mylio Photos is it lets me edit the way I want. Mylio has become my hub, but if Lightroom is still your hub and you want to use Mylio, you can have Mylio and Lightroom pointing to the same folders. They can share access to those, and you can get an idea of what Mylio can do for you and still take advantage of what you know and are comfortable with. So when you edit photos, you have a few options. With Mylio Photos, we have some editing tools that are built in. In my opinion, they're quite basic, but if you just need to adjust exposure and clarity and just the basic things that you find in a typical raw editor, you have access to that here in Mylio Photos. But if you want to jump out, you can make all sorts of edits with any editor that you want. So this is a look at the essential editing. This is the edit panel here inside Mylio Photos. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me jump ahead a little farther here. Round trip editing. So this is where you can send an image from Mylio to Photoshop, to Luminar, to On1, whatever your tool of choice is, or even to Lightroom. You can round trip and get those edits back into Mylio. It's really quite easy. With Lightroom, there's a quick send. If you import into Mylio, you can send images to Lightroom, and it does a quick import there into Lightroom. You can edit, and then there's a plugin that you can use to send those edits back to Mylio. So it's, excuse me, it works great. It's a very similar process for using Photoshop, Luminar, whatever you want to use. You just go up to that photo menu at the top, choose Open With, and pick the editor that you want to use. So here's a quick look at what that looks like inside of Mylio. And you can see that it automatically finds a bunch of different applications. So any applications that are on your system that can be opened with a particular file type you're working with. So if it's a JPEG, it's going to have a list of different editors that can open a JPEG. And then ones that are raw capable, it's going to list those if you're working with a raw image. So tons of flexibility. And we also have the option to edit with Lightroom Classic. And this is just a quick look at what happens when we go into Lightroom. So if you send images from Lightroom or from Mylio to Lightroom, it brings up your import window. You go ahead and edit as you like. And then we have our Mylio plugin. Get that set up. It's a really quick and easy setup. And it creates a photo stream there under published services there on the left. And you just drag your edited photo to that photo stream. And then click publish at the top of the photo stream. And that photo will end up back in Mylio. It's really quite amazing how easy it works. And it lets you have your edited photos with you everywhere. It'll make that smart preview that you can get to and work with on other devices if you need to share it on social media, whatever, if you're out on your tablet, your phone, or you can come back into Lightroom and adjust your edits if you need to and export another edited copy back to Mylio. Entirely flexible to how you want to work. We also have the option to do mobile editing, which I want to show you in a few minutes. And this is one of the things that I found to be the most fun. I've been locked into editing with my computer for years and years and years. And there's a lot of things that I still do primarily on my computer, like if I'm merging something that's focus stacked, or I'm working with an HDR, there's applications that are pretty much best on the computer to do those types of jobs. But once I've done those jobs, there's other editing I can do on my tablet when I'm sitting in front of the TV at night watching, a movie or something, and I'm bored and I want to sit there and do something. To be able to access all of my stuff on my tablet is just so freeing, and I find it to be a lot of fun. So I'll show you that here in a few minutes. I mentioned sharing. There's great sharing tools with both the desktop and mobile versions. So you can export a copy to print. You can quickly upload to Facebook and social media from your phone. Whatever you need to do, you can get it done as far as sharing your images. Let's see here. I also talked a little bit about being able to work anytime, anywhere. There's a lot you can do from your phone or your tablet if you're sitting on a plane and you don't want to pay for the plane's Wi-Fi. That doesn't work very well anyway. You can still sit there and go through your images, add those keywords, move things around, rate, cull things, and get things done. And when you get back to an internet connection, it syncs across all of your devices. So you can work offline and still be able to have access to everything. It's pretty incredible. So here's a bit of information about working offline. All of your data is stored in XMP sidecar files, and once you get back to a connection, it syncs across all your devices. So if you go through a shoot and you've done all your star ratings and color labels on your phone or your tablet while you've been offline, the moment you get back home, it's going to sync back up to your computer. All those star ratings and color labels will be synced over to your desktop, and you can continue working when you get back to a connection. There's just so much flexibility that can happen with working offline. And we talked about always in sync. Everything stays in sync really, really well. And that's got to be one of the most fun things that I've seen. So in recent history, I had a computer crash. And I got a new computer for work. And I was able to bring my Vault drive that had all my pictures on it and plug it directly into my new computer once I'd installed Mylio, and I'm back up and running. My computer that crashed got repaired and brought back to me. So now I have two computers. And I'm able to install Mylio on that computer. And now from either laptop, I can access my entire library. So the syncing is really incredible. Not only do I have access from my phone and my tablet, but I have access from multiple computers. So this is a little demo here that one of my colleagues made showing doing edits from his laptop and how things automatically update on his other devices. And this is live. This is not Photoshop. There's nothing crazy going on here. He's just rotating, editing, and it's happening across every single device. So I'm going to just let that run here for a second because it's pretty powerful to see it in action. And it really is this fast. When I'm on my home network with all of my devices, I can do something on one and it's popped up on the others within typically seconds. While that's running, any questions?
I have so many questions.
Go for it.
Okay. I have a question a little bit about the workflow overall, because I use Lightroom as basically my asset management, right?
Okay.
So I have the keywords and collections, etc., that I use.
Mm-hmm.
And I also use, I also rename all my folders so that if I'm in File Explorer, I can find things quickly that way too.
Okay.
So if we start using Mylio, do we import the photos directly into Mylio?
So what you can do is do what's called a linked folder. So whatever the parent folder is where you have all of your images that are cataloged by Lightroom, you can link that folder in Mylio so it stays exactly where it's at. Mm-hmm. And Mylio will share and view that same folder that Lightroom's viewing. So all of your file names, your folder names, all of that will be viewable and searchable inside of Mylio. All of the keywording you've done inside of Lightroom will be visible in Mylio. The only thing that you mentioned that doesn't come over are going to be your collections. Those are unique to Lightroom. So, and as are the albums inside of Mylio.
Okay, how about like the star ratings and color tags? Do those come
Star
over?
ratings and color labels do come across.
Okay.
Flags do not. So the way Lightroom does flags, they actually don't save that data to the metadata, to the XMP file.
Okay.
Mylio does, but it's their own proprietary way of flagging. There's no real standard for flags. So flags don't come across, unfortunately, but star ratings and color labels do.
Okay, so whatever an XMP file can hold by Lightroom, Mylio will see it.
Pretty much. Now, the edits that you make in Lightroom do not automatically come across via the XMP. A lot of that stuff is saved, but because tools in different programs work a little bit differently, even if they have the same name, they don't apply identically. So what Mylio does is it ignores your edits as far as your pixel edits. But if you want to see those edits from Lightroom inside of Mylio, you use that plugin and it'll create a JPEG copy that stacks with your original in Mylio so you can see those edits.
Okay, because
but you're still re-editable in Lightroom. It doesn't lock up anything in your Lightroom.
yeah, and then so ultimately, you know, I'd like to kill the subscription to Adobe. I don't see that happening anytime soon, but if I could use Mylio instead as the data asset management tool, then that would take away about 90% of why I even use Adobe anymore, because my primary editor now is Photolab.
Okay. So yeah, I mean,
which doesn't import.
So you actually would be a great person to transition over. It'll take you a little while, especially if you want to transfer over, you know, recreate collections as albums and things like that. There's a bit of a migratory process if you want to completely leave Adobe, but it is very doable. And I would say, as far as an asset manager goes, it's probably one of the few I would consider completely leaving Adobe for. Now, I love Adobe. I have no intention of leaving, but Mylio Photos is very capable.
Yeah, Photoshop layering is the workflow between Lightroom and Photoshop is where that's keeping me there.
Yeah.
But, the other question I had was when you talked about we could like tag, let's say we tag my sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
A few times or several times, and then eventually Mylio will recognize my sister in the future. Yep. Or in already existing. So with that, if it's not specifically a facial recognition technology, if I were to tag, say, my Volkswagen Beetle, right, many times, would it eventually recognize, you know, in older photos and upcoming photos that this is my Beetle?
Unfortunately, no. It is keyed into faces, and there is facial recognition technology there.
Okay.
I have managed to slightly trick it myself with photos of my cats. Yeah. But it's really not keyed to animal faces. Like once in a while, it'll pick it up, and it was like, wow, it got it right this time. But it's not keyed for non-human faces or non-humans.
Okay. So it's not an object or recognition. It's basically
correct.
Human faces. Okay.
It's human faces.
Right. And then again, on the workflow, if I import everything into Mylio directly, and would I have to go into Lightroom and say, import these folders that, you know what I'm saying?
So no, okay, so whatever's in your folders in your file system, Mylio can see that.
Right. But if I'm importing directly into Mylio, and then when I go into Lightroom hasn't imported those photos yet. Would I have to import those folders in Lightroom?
I mean, if you're wanting to transition to using just Mylio, no, you don't have to add them to Lightroom. So the way Lightroom works is it doesn't just watch a folder. For instance, if you have a folder of images that you've imported into Lightroom, if you add new images to that folder outside of the Lightroom Photoshop workflow, it's not going to see those images unless you tell it to synchronize.
Right.
With Mylio, it watches the folder. So if I add new images to that folder, it's going to scan those constantly and pull in those new images into my view in Mylio.
Okay.
Right.
So it would be better to import into Lightroom first and then let Mylio find it. It finds it on its own.
It really is a personal choice. There's a good argument to be had both ways.
Yeah.
I've been trying out both for my own personal workflow. It depends on how much you want to rely on Lightroom. If you're wanting to transition away from using Lightroom as your asset manager, I would encourage you to import into Mylio and only send the images to Lightroom that you want to edit in Lightroom, then bring them back into Mylio and carry on.
Yeah.
If you want to stick with using Lightroom, edit into or bring into Lightroom first and just have Mylio watch that folder. It works both ways, and there's no wrong answer. It's just a matter of what your ultimate goal is.
Okay. And then when you if I have 5 devices, it doesn't matter how many devices I have for the license. The $99 covers as many devices as I want, as long as it's the one catalog, so to speak.
Correct.
Okay. Because yeah, it came up only once I haven't been shooting that long, but it came up once where you upgrade your computers. I upgrade mine every couple of years. And all of a sudden, I couldn't renew my license for this one software because they said it's installed on another one, and I couldn't uninstall it from the other one because it was broken.
Oh,
so yeah,
that's
I didn't
so
get
frustrating.
much. Yeah, that was rough. Anyhow, so I won't run into that at all with this.
Nope. Whatever device you install it on, you can install it on a family member. Like, so if you have a spouse that has a phone, you can install it on their phone and have their images come into your library. If you have a kid, you can have their images come into your library. Now that does give your kid access to your photos as well.
Over my dead body, but
yeah. But there's, there are families that share these accounts and have many, many devices. So it's a matter of what you want. It's insanely flexible, which is also kind of overwhelming at the beginning. But once you get in there and you start playing with it, you add in a few pictures and you see what it can do. It's a little bit addicting, and I fell head over heels in love with it.
Right. I get it. And then oh crap, I can't. I would say, the other challenge I run into, because I do a lot of video, is well, I guess Mylio wouldn't solve that problem. I keep running out of space. Because I'll do a photo job, like I'll have like 3 video jobs, I should say. 3 video jobs is like a terabyte of video.
Right.
Now that we're doing 4K, which is ridiculous to me, but that's what they want.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I don't see Mylio. Mylio is not really a video solution though, right? Or what does it have for that?
It does support video. You can catalog, organize your videos. I think most people do it more for like their little iPhone videos and things like that, but it does support video files. It doesn't have any video editing. The face recognition only works on stills, things like that. But you can, use star ratings, color labels. You can watch it. You can click play and watch your video inside of Mylio.
Okay. So okay. So it's pretty much the same as Lightroom. You can't really edit video in Lightroom.
No.
So, all right. That's all I got for now. I'm sorry.
All right. No, you're fine. Not a problem at all.
So Angela, I do have a question in the chat from Terry.
Sure.
Terry's asked how much tagging do you allow for uploaded photos?
Terry, it really depends on how many images. So if we're talking about face tagging specifically, it really depends on how large your collection is and how many of those have people in them. I wouldn't expect to get everything face tagged right away. it's a process. So my, my close to 100,000 library, it took me over several months of, for 30 minutes here, I'd sit here and do some face tags, maybe 20 minutes here, standing in line at the grocery store, do a few here and there. And I've whittled my way down to where I only have, it's less than 100 untagged photos in my library now. It's not something that gets done all at once. And if you're talking about using star ratings and color labels and things like that, if you're wanting to go in and tag specific images, again, it's just going to depend on the size of your library and how much time you want to spend evaluating different images. I would advise you to break it up into small chunks and don't feel like you have to do it all at once, because I'm going to guess most people here have been shooting for 5, 10, 15 years or longer, especially if those who have shot film. It took us a long time to make these images. And if you've managed to get yourself in a bit of an organization mess, it can take a little while to get out of it. It's not something that you just install Mylio and everything is perfectly organized, but it does facilitate that process and makes it pretty painless. So it does take a little bit of time. All right.
I'm sorry.
I've got a few. Oh, go
one
ahead.
more quick thing. And I don't know if Mylio probably doesn't have this feature up, but this is something I've been looking for.
Okay.
Where, I use Google Maps and I allow it to track me everywhere, right?
Okay.
And what I'd love to be able to do is be able to download that GPS data from Google Maps and have it map everything over the last 5 years I've been using it to all my photos.
Wow,
on
that's interesting. I will have to pose that to our engineers and see, hey, if we download this from, I guess, like Google Takeout probably would allow you to download it.
Yeah, I mean, it's my data, I would assume.
Yeah.
But maybe it's asking too much, but
But that, I mean,
because
to be able to
5
parse
years
that into
ago,
stuff that's time-stamped.
yeah, everything's time-stamped, the photos are time-stamped, and it'd be nice to be able to just tag the photos from the GPS data that Google already has. Because Google
cool
timestamps
idea.
all the cell phone photos, right? When you take a picture with
Right.
a cell phone automatically.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
it'd be
exactly.
nice to be able to tag the photos we took with other cameras. Because 5 years ago, well, not even 5 years ago, like I just bought a new camera and it doesn't have a built-in GPS. I have to, tether it to my phone to get GPS data.
Right.
So 99.9% of my photos are not geotagged.
Well, it is pretty easy to do in Mylio. And I can show that to you here in a couple of minutes as well.
Okay.
Whether it's to add specific coordinates or to just take, to zoom in on an area on a map and just drag them to that approximate location. So I know that when I went to London, I don't need to have like each little pin around where I went in London.
Right.
I just drag the pin on there to London, and it's close enough, depending on what it is. For me, it's close enough.
So would I be able to just drag a folder to a point on the map, or?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
pretty. It's that
good.
easy.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's close enough.
Yeah, I've been able to go back and geotag the last several years of my images that way, because with my big camera, I don't have the GPS turned on. So
yeah, because I keyword everything. I put the location like Great Falls.
Well, and that's all searchable too. So whatever's in your
Right.
keywords, whatever's in any aspect of that metadata, Mylio will find when you do a search.
Right, but then I could drag that selection of Great Falls onto the map, and then now over time I'll have a map full of points, right?
Exactly. Another cool thing you could do is in those library stats that I mentioned earlier, where you can search by camera and you can search by file type, you also have a keyword list in there. So you could go find all of your images that were keyworded with Great Falls, view them all at once, do a Command or Control A to select all, and just drag those onto the map for Great Falls.
Right.
It's super easy.
Okay, that's cool, because it's just it's just a more visual way to look at your photos on a map rather than by keyword, right? Because sometimes I can't remember, I can't remember exactly where the name of something is even.
I hear you. But you see it on a map and it's a little easier to get to.
Right. There's like parks in South Carolina that I cannot remember the name of the park, so I can't find the keyword. But eventually I will find the keyword, then I can drag it on the map. So like the next day, if I forget again, I can say, oh, I know it's in South Carolina. Then I can go onto the map and say, okay, there it is.
There you go.
Okay, anyway, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, let's look at a few more things here. I talked a little bit about compatibility. Mylio Photos works with your mobile devices, Android and iOS, with your Mac and Windows computers. And you can have a mixed system. So you can have a Windows computer and an iPhone, which if you try to do that with Apple Photos, you have Apple Photos on your iPhone and a Windows computer, there is a viewer, but I hear it's really quite terrible. So if you have a mixed system household, it's really quite difficult. Mylio makes that easy and it works seamlessly. I have a Windows computer as well. I can install my account and it syncs up all my images and I can see everything on my Windows computer as well. It works with external hard drives, both traditional hard drives, SSDs, network accessible storage. You can import from your memory cards, digital cameras. It's amazing with scanners because that life calendar, actually you can go back hundreds of years. And if you have images or memorabilia from family that you've scanned in, you can apply those to your calendar and go back generations. It's really quite impressive. Works with all the different photo editing apps that I mentioned, plus many more that I didn't. If you do want to use a cloud service, it works like adding an additional drive. I, for instance, use Amazon Drive and have that designated as another vault. So I do have a cloud vault that I can access anywhere, but it's completely optional. It is not necessary to run Mylio Photos. You are not tied to a cloud. It is a third-party service that I've taken advantage of. It has file support for many, many different RAW formats, DNG, JPEG, HEIC from the iPhones, supports video, and even supports documents, so PDFs, and you can turn a switch on in the settings, and it will even show Microsoft Office documents. It's not really its intended use, but since our founder is the former CTO of Microsoft, he wanted that, so guess what? We show documents in there too.
Cool. Angela, I do have one question in the chat. Marjorie,
Yeah.
she's asking, is there a list of supported photo editors?
We don't have a list because I have yet to find one that it doesn't work with.
Okay, that's good.
I have personally tested it with, Adobe products,
Cool.
Skylum products,
Yep.
Photomatics, On One. What else do I have? I believe it works well with Nick. What else do I have on my computer? I have a whole bunch. I know people who work with it with Capture One, Affinity, all the major players out there. It works as far as I know. Like I said, I have yet to find one it doesn't work with. If you find one, let me know.
Sounds good, thanks.
You're welcome. So this is just a little bit more information on what systems it works with. So we have actually pretty generous support for even slightly older devices. You don't have to be running the absolute latest and greatest. Most of us who are photo enthusiasts, we get pretty powerful computers. But if you're just getting started with photography and you have an older device or maybe a slightly underpowered device, Mylio actually runs pretty well, even if you don't have like a super spec'd out machine. So that's always something nice to pay attention to. But these are the general specs for the operating systems that are supported.
Just real quick, I'm sorry. I
That's
didn't,
fine.
you said Nick collections. So does that also imply like Photolab 5?
It should, yeah. I haven't tried it myself, but it should.
Okay, all right.
So if you're interested in getting started with Mylio Photos, I believe David put his link into the chat with his affiliate link, but if you wanted to go straight to the Mylio website, you can learn more here at mylio.com. We have a really extensive FAQ. So, people ask, what happens to my photos if I decide I don't want to pay for a subscription anymore? We have that all lined out right here in our FAQ. And short story is, you don't lose your photos. Your photos are not in a locked ecosystem. You still have full access to them in your file system. There's a little bit more to it that I'm not going to go into right now, but it's all lined out there. If you're ready to sign up, you can go to account.mylio.com/sign up. And there is a 30-day free trial. And it gives you access to everything. Nothing is locked up, nothing is restricted for 30 days. At the end of the 30 days, we'll ask you to go ahead and subscribe and you can do that for $9.99 a month or $99.99 a year. And once you pay, you have another 30 days satisfaction guaranteed, where if you decide in that 30 days it is not for you, we'll give you a full refund. So we want to make sure that you're happy with the software and that it works well for you. We also have really extensive education available for everybody. We have a thorough product manual and quick start guide. I'm actually the author of the product manual, so if you find any issues, you come to me, or something that doesn't make sense, you come to me. We also have a quick start guide that was written by another photographer who did a great job, and it's step-by-step getting you started with all of the small things that can make you happy and successful with Mylio Photos. So a great way to get going. We also have an active community, which is made up of primarily Mylio Photos users. A lot of our staff hangs out there as well, so you have access to people who can answer questions and give you tips. You can also share photos and get photography advice and all sorts of fun stuff in our community. So that's at community.mylio.com. If you have a support issue, we have a great support forum that our support team and our engineers hang out in, and they are happy to jump in and help. And if you have like a specific question that you can't find an answer for, you can email our support directly at support@mylio.com. And then we also have a full-length fundamentals course to get you up and running with the more deep aspects that go definitely more in depth than that quick start guide. It has videos, it has write-ups. I'm one of the teachers in that course, along with Rich Harrington and my colleague JC. And the course, I think, takes between an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it digs into everything you need to know about Mylio Photos. And that's free. That's open to any of our customers. So lots of ways to get to know the software and to get to know the team behind Mylio. We're a fairly small company, and we want to make sure you're successful and happy. So you can always reach out to us. You can find me at angela@mylio.com. Obviously, at the community, we're here to help. So that's the slideshow part. Once, if you guys don't have any other questions right now, I can jump into the actual software and we can poke around a bit.
So I think you kind of answered the one question that's in the chat, but what happens if you decide not to renew the subscription?
Yes. Yeah, and it goes into detail like for what happens with different types of devices, but the short story is everything is still accessible on your hard drive.
Right.
And via your file system. We don't lock anything up in a proprietary file. The only things that you lose when you stop a subscription is there are a few things like the events and a few organization things that are Mylio specific, but everything in your XMP files, your keywords, your face tags, your titles, all of that is preserved in your file system and does not require Mylio to access. You also lose the syncing, so you wouldn't be able to sync stuff between your devices. It would just be available on your local drives. So
right. Also,
we hope people that even if they only use this for a short time, they end up in a better position and more organized than when they started. So,
right. So I do have the link in the chat, and
awesome.
I'm an affiliate, and there's a sale going on for 25% off, and that ends tomorrow.
Yes.
So the 22nd is the last day for the sale. So be sure to click on that, and I'll take the money to support the group. So
Very cool.
Slice I get.
All right.
Right.
So if you guys have any other questions, please don't hesitate to jump in, but I'm going to go ahead and I've switched over to actively running Mylio. This is my demo account, and this has our sample library. And I just want to quickly show this sample library. If I go to the help menu here, there's a button here to remove the sample library, and it's just as easy to add the sample library. And it gives you some images to play with and shows you what an organized library can look like. It already has built-in geotags and face tags and things like that, so you can play and get to know the software without messing with your own images if you're not quite ready to do that. You can also install the sample library next to your own photos, and then when you want the sample library gone, you just click this button and it removes all of it, including all the metadata, and gets it off of your system. It's amazing how clean it is, how you can get these images and then get rid of them if you want to. All the instructions for doing this are in that product manual, and those are available also via the help menu. So we have our how-to guide, links to the community, and so forth. So we try to make sure the education is really accessible. Now, from our dashboard, this is kind of the hub for controlling what goes on inside of Mylio Photos. I mentioned earlier those library stats, and we talked about keywords. So you could grab all of, let's see here, Hayman Island photos. I can go ahead and click on that, and then I can go to my map, and let's see if it'll find it. Hayman Island, Queensland, Australia, there we go. And you can see these are already geotagged, but what I could do is just do a Command or Control A on these photos to select them all and drag them onto the map. And it's that easy to geotag things. The library stats also lets you look at the different cameras that you've taken images with, different lenses you might have used, places that you've already tagged, and so forth. Now, the more visual ways to interact with your images are going to be over here in the All Photos, which we talked about briefly, our calendar view, and I mentioned but didn't show you in the slideshow how far back we can go here. And you can see that we have a few images that are scans that were added quite a ways back. And you can actually go back way farther than 1900. There's also this undated category, which is awesome for people who are family historians and into genealogy. If you scan in a bunch of images, you don't want them to necessarily show up on your calendar. You know, let's say you scanned them in yesterday. The metadata is going to show that they were created yesterday, but that's not their actual date. If you don't know the actual date, over here in the info panel, you can go ahead and choose an image. Let's go ahead and grab one of these here. And over here under date created, click on the 3 dots and scroll down to undated. And this removes the data information inside of Mylio. Now your metadata is still preserved in the file itself, but if I do this, then it'll show in that undated category on the calendar. And so it makes it a great way to be able to, if you need to do a little bit of research or you just don't want to clutter up your calendar with things that you have no idea when they happened. I love that undated feature. Let's go ahead and pop back here. So that's the calendar, and you can, like I said, change the priority of what shows up here. But Mylio does a pretty good job of picking out the important moments that you've tagged to go into this calendar. Another fun way to interact is with the people view. And when I was saying that it recognizes photos of people that you've already tagged, so right here we have Colleen, and you can see there's a question mark here. If I go ahead and double click into her collection, you'll see that some of these images don't have this bar at the bottom, some of them do. And what this means is we've tagged enough images of Colleen that it's recognized that, hey, I think the rest of these are her. So all you have to do is go through and check them to say, yes, these are all Colleen. Or if you come across one that isn't, you can hit the X. If it's somebody else you want to name, click on the question mark, you can type in a name or just say ignore. And if it's somebody that you don't know, just hit ignore. So it's a great way to go through and quickly tag people. We also have our batch tagging tool. So if you click on the batch tagging, which has 2 little people here, this takes us to the batch tagging mode. And I'm going to actually back out of this here, go into my photos here that are untagged, and now choose the batch tagging. And it's going to start suggesting people. Now, this is where I can spend a lot of time and the rabbit hole that I've gone down to tag everybody in my catalog. Once you've tagged a few people, and I think it only takes about 20 tags for the software to understand and to see and recognize the different people in your collection. So you can go through and be like, hey, yep, these are all Michael. And then just click approve. And now those are all tagged. And now we have all of these images here and go, yep, I'm pretty sure those are all Colleen. And we can go ahead and hit approve and it goes to the next person. It's that quick and easy to tag people. If you want to manually tag somebody, let's say somebody's a little blurry, the AI doesn't catch it, or you want to tag your favorite pet. Let's go ahead and grab this one here. You can do what we call a manual tag. And this doesn't affect the facial recognition component of the software. It's not going to start seeing the dog and recognizing the dog. Like I said, I can fool it once in a while, but it's not its intended purpose. But if you click and hold, it'll pop up a who is this, and you can go ahead and type in the name. And this works great for images, like I said, that are a little bit blurry, or maybe it's the back of somebody's head. It's not a clear view of their face. And the software doesn't see that it's a face. You can manually tag people this way. You can also tag an image over here under people. And there's, let's see here, under other people, if you just want to tag the image with a person overall, you can add them here on the right. And this is great for, excuse me. For instance, I mentioned the theater ticket earlier. I went with my neighbor and I wanted to tag her in that ticket. So when I pull up her face, her collection there in the people section, then I'm going to see that ticket and be like, oh yeah, that's right, we went to that concert together. So it doesn't actually tag her face. It doesn't affect that part of the software, but I can tag a person in a picture who's maybe not even there. So there's so many different ways that you can use this. Those are just a few of my favorites. One feature we haven't mentioned yet, it's really cool, is deduplication. So if you're like me, like most photographers, we end up with duplicates in our collection. Even those of us who are exceedingly organized, sometimes it happens. We have this really cool tool that we just introduced called Find Duplicates. And it goes through your library and finds duplicate images. And it's looking for exact duplicates. It's not looking for near duplicates. It's not going to find images that are in burst mode. It's not going to find images that are resized. So like you cropped an image, it's not going to say this image is a cropped version of this. It's going for exact duplicates. We hope to bring in some of those other parameters in the future, but for right now, what you can do is you can look through and see, wow, there are 35 sets of duplicates here. And I can go down here to the bottom right and do auto check and determine the criteria of what I want to keep and what I want to get rid of. For me, most times the defaults are fine. So I can say run auto check. And it's going to give me some helpful information here. I'll click done. And you can see it's gone through and checked the ones that it thinks are best to delete and the ones that are best to keep. Once I've gone through and done that, I have a couple of options here in the bottom. You can delete the checked ones and that permanently deletes them. Or if you're not quite ready to permanently delete them, you can do the move option. And this just moves them to a folder outside of Mylio Photos so you can go through them later. It's a great way if you're not quite ready to commit to deleting things, you can still get them out of your library and clean things up and feel a little bit more organized. So from there, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Are there any other questions about the desktop version? I'm going to switch over to my iPad and show you a couple of quick things over there. Any questions before we move on?
No, do not see anything in the chat. Anybody else
All
have
right.
questions?
All right, so one more quick thing, and then I will turn you guys loose, because I know this is a lot of information to cram into a very short amount of time. But you guys hopefully can see that I'm very excited about this product. So go ahead and share. Hope that this works. All right. Let's see. All right, can you guys see my iPad?
Yes.
Is that coming through? Awesome. Okay, so this is my personal library. What I showed you on the computer was my demo library with our sample library. These are my own images, and I'm on my iPad. I can mirror this on my computer. I can see this on my phone. And I want to show you how easy it is to edit images. So I've gone through, these are images that some are edited, some are not, but a lot of them are already focus stacked. So I did the focus stacking, I did the bracketing in camera, stack them together with an application on my computer. And now I want to edit that photo and make it a little bit better, but I want to do it while I'm comfortable on the sofa. I don't necessarily want to be stuck at my desk after I've already spent, 8, 9, 10 hours at work. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this image here, and I'm going to choose the share button here and go to open in. I'll go down to Photoshop Express because that's a fun one to use. And that's going to open up my image in Photoshop Express on my laptop. I'll go to, let's see here, go to my adjustments, do a quick edit here. Let's brighten that up. The white balance a little bit off. So I'm going to cool that down and do the tint. Let's bring that a little bit to the left. Colors are a little bit more true. I think it needs a little bit more exposure. Bring that up just a hair more. And maybe we'll add some clarity. There we go, that's fun. And so then I can take a look here at the before, after. I'm pretty happy with that. And this is how easy it is to get it back to Mylio. I hit the share button. I go back down to the more menu here at the bottom. It pulls up the share sheet inside of Photoshop Express. There's Mylio Photos. And there it goes right back to Mylio. Now I can switch over back to Mylio. It's going to open what's called the inbox. And there's my edited photo from Photoshop Express back in Mylio. When I open up Mylio on my computer, this image edited, and I was editing the raw image, by the way. This was the full raw file from my Canon. It's going to be edited on all of my devices. Now you'll notice that it came into a separate folder here called Inbox. If I want to move that back to its original folder, I can go down here to what we call the Quick Actions menu and move to folder. And I can go into my folder system here and find, yep, that was the folder and the place where I took those images. Hit continue, and it moves it out of that inbox back to its original folder and synchronizes it across all of my devices. I just find that to be amazing. I don't quite understand exactly how it all works because there are some really smart people who have designed this technology, but it works brilliantly. And similarly, I can edit on my computer and all of those edits synchronize across to all of my devices, and I can see them on my iPad. So there's just so many fun, great ways to use this software. And I found that it expands my creativity and it expands options. I would encourage you guys, if you try it out, don't feel like you have to do it all at once. Organize in small chunks and learn the software bit by bit. Take advantage of that quick start guide, that fundamentals course, and don't feel like you have to have it all down all at once, because there is a lot here, and you'll learn as you use the software more how to best fit it into your workflow and make it work for you. But hopefully you'll find that it expands opportunities for you and that it's fun. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys today, unless you have any other questions.
Yes, Angela, there's a question from Maria. Maria has
Okay.
asked, does Mylio recognize files from new OM1 camera?
Let me see here. What is the exact model number of that OM1?
It's an
I believe
it's
it's just OM1. Okay.
Correct.
I believe that it does, because we have one of our affiliates is an Olympus ambassador, or what is it, the OM ambassador? Now I forget, they changed their name a little bit.
Right.
There are certain file types. I think the ones that are like the super high resolution, where that has their own proprietary stuff. Some of those do not come in yet. We're working on it.
Okay.
But the regular raw files, yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your presentation. If anybody else has any questions?
Yeah, pop them into the chat or unmute, and I'm happy to answer. If you guys have any additional questions you think of later, you can reach me at angela@mylio.com. Happy to see you guys there, or join our community and you can find me there as well.
Very good. Thank you, Angela. Appreciate
All right,
it.
thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thanks. And be sure to take advantage of the sale. It's ending tomorrow, so time's ticking.
Okay.
So,
All right.
thank you.
Good night,
Have a
everybody.
Good night.
Okay, good night. Thank you.
You're welcome.